Hello, my friends. It's finally time to talk with you about Mannatech's new microbiome technologies. This is some pretty exciting stuff. Well, you know it is my habit to tell you what to expect in this presentation before we start. What we're going to talk about first is the gut microbiome. We'll define it. You'll be able to understand it pretty easily. Then, what's leaky gut? We'll explain that for you. And how does the gut microbiome support both immune health and brain health? There actually is a connection. Then we're going to talk about how probiotics and enzymes are different and why they're both necessary. So one does not replace the other. And we'll talk about our new product, new GI Defense, and improved GI Pro Balance, as well as improved GI-Zyme. So to start with, what is the gut microbiome? Well, let's start with a microbe. Microbes are all kinds of little things. They're bacteria, they're virus, they're fungi, they're protozoa, they're all kinds of little organisms that live in and on your body. And it's kind of surprising, the beneficial ones can have some pretty amazing benefits for you. For instance, they can be the barrier between us and pathogens. They can help to support your immune system and even modulate your immune system. That is, help your immune system to achieve and maintain balance, which is crucial to good health. Also, microbes help us with weight. If you've been having weight issues, microbes might be part of that problem. And we'll talk about how that works later on. And various microbes can help you to detoxify, can literally help in the sort of purification in the system, because they can often take up toxins that spare your rest of your body the stress with that. And of course, microbes are also good for infants. There's 100 trillion, I know that's a big number, there's 100 trillion microbes that live in you and on you. Wow. Now don't get creeped out. Most of them are absolutely beneficial to you, okay? Now there are actually approximately 10 times more of these microbes in your body than there are human cells. In fact, it would weigh, if you could take them all out and weigh them, it would weigh about 5 pounds or about 2.27 kilograms. While some reside on the skin and the mouth, 90 to 95% of them live in your gut. And that's why gut health is so important to us. And of course, it's different in every individual. Literally, every individual's microbiome is unique to that person. That's kind of a cool idea as well. All right, this is kind of a quick look at the digestive tract, the beginning of the digestive tract. So you see the stomach and so on. And then off to the side, you can see some cells which are sort of the lining in there, okay? Well, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you have enough enzymes to digest your food. That's key. We'll come back to enzymes a couple of times. But if you don't digest your food, there wasn't much point in eating it. You're going to learn a lot about enzymes today. That's important stuff for you. So then, you have these tight junctions, they're called. I'll show you a picture in a second. You have these tight junctions in the intestinal wall. They're so tight that they can only allow a little bit of fluid to pass through and just nutrients, like vitamins and minerals and things like that. But they have to be tight for you to be healthy, because if they're not, then it's called leaky gut. So as you look at this picture, what you see is on one side of the slide, you see the cells in the cell wall, the wall of your intestines. They're tight. They're very, very tight. And so that just a little bit of fluid and nutrition can pass through. But then you see some cells off to the side. There's a gap. The tight junction's not tight at all. There's a gap here, and some of the cells may even be damaged. So that allows things to pass through your intestines and then into you that are not healthy. And some scientists believe that as many as 90% of all the health issues can be traced back to leaky gut. Is this important? You bet it is. This is a scientific trend that really started to rev up about 3 years ago. And folks, this is a trend that's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger in healthcare as more and more doctors understand how important this process really is. More important than they ever knew before. And the public, of course, is going to keep getting more aware. Now, there's something called gluten, and many of you have heard talk about gluten sensitivity, and there's gluten-free menus and gluten-free restaurants, and what the heck is gluten? So gluten is a food additive. It's used mostly in pastas to make pasta stretchier, right? Here's the problem with that. It's really hard to digest. You need a special gluten enzyme to break it down, and your body doesn't want to do that. So if you eat anything, I don't care what it is you eat, if you eat anything that you don't have an enzyme to digest or an enzyme to break down, what's going to happen is you're not going to feel good. You can have all kinds of symptoms. You may have gas or bloating or cramping. You may have all kinds of symptoms. But it's because you couldn't digest what you ate. That's your body telling you, hey, don't eat this stuff. I can't digest it. Excessive sugar intake also contributes to leaky gut, and sugar intake is on the rise. Also, the use of non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, both prescription and non-prescription, over-the-counter, things like ibuprofen as an example. Ibuprofen, regular use of that, can contribute to leaky gut. And excessive alcohol intake. Wait till I tell you the numbers about alcohol intake, how much it's on the rise. Folks, leaky gut's getting worse because the things that contribute to leaky gut are getting worse. And this is why this product, GI Defense, is so important, especially right now. If you have inadequate levels of vitamin A, vitamin D, or zinc, that's also linked to leaky gut. And as you may remember from my presentations on vitamins and minerals, my presentations on immune function, and my presentation about why you need nutrition in the 21st century, and I would invite you to go watch all those videos that are done for you. You remember that I talked about the fact that now human blood studies are indicating that the majority of people who are tested do not get enough vitamin from diet alone, which is why the experts say it appears prudent for you to take vitamins every day. We'll get back to vitamins later on. Chronic stress, yep, stress contributes to leaky gut big time. You'll be surprised when I give you a little factoid about stress and how serious it is in the 21st century versus previous times in human history. And of course, yeast overgrowth. And a lot of people say, I have yeast. Of course you do. Everyone does. It lives in your gut. It becomes a problem if it becomes an overgrowth in your gut. And that can also contribute to leaky gut. The symptoms of leaky gut then reach far beyond the gut. So food sensitivities that we talked about already, but there are physical and emotional problems that can be related to this. The gut-brain axis is a reality. I mean, there's something to be said about having a happy gut, because that might help you to be a happier person emotionally as well. Pretty interesting stuff. Now, it's very, very important for people who have persistent skincare problems. Very often that can be taken back to gut health. Fatigue, of course, that goes to digestion and processing of your food and so many other things. Weight gain we talked about, and of course issues with digestive symptoms and bloating and gas and that sort of thing. That's all important. So now you might say, well, do I need that? Are there a lot of people who need that? Yeah, there sure are. In fact, here's some stats that started in 2017 and then projections up to the year 2025. Now in 2017, 32.67 billion worth of gut health products were sold, especially digestive health products. That's a lot of money. That's US dollars. And by the way, there's some countries where the word billion doesn't mean the same thing as apparently it means in the US. So just to be clear for everybody, when I say a billion with a B, I mean 1,000 times 1 million. It's huge. Well, the rate of sales right now, the trend right now, indicates that by the year 2025, we're going to be up to almost 60 billion US dollars worth of sales just in the area of digestive health products. What does that tell you? It tells you that people recognize they're having issues and they're looking for solutions. That's important information for us right now. Now, if you look at the global trend, and I just have a few of the countries mentioned here, but in China, of course, there's 1.4 billion people, so you would expect the highest number of sales. So that's just over 3 billion, almost 4 billion US dollars in digestive health products. Now, the US, who has about 1/4 the population of Greater China, we spend about 1/2 as much as they spend in Greater China on digestive health products. That's huge. Even Hong Kong, that has such a tiny population, still is spending 30 billion US dollars a year on digestive health products. So if you haven't thought about this as a big problem globally, you need to rethink it. It's a problem, and people are recognizing it. In fact, right now, 60% of the people who are interviewed around the world, they say, yep, I'm aware of things involved with gut health. I'm not sure with all the particulars, but I know there's issues here, and that's 60% of the population. And in fact, when you look at foods that are being sold that have digestive health relationships, the number 2 platform of foods being sold in the world, right after foods for health and wellness, is digestion-related foods. That's big. So then, gluten consumption, which is on the rise, excessive sugar intake, on the rise, poor nutritional habits, unfortunately also on the rise. Stress. Folks, if you think that the stress today is the same as it was last year or 10 years ago or 50 or 100 years ago, I want you to think again. In fact, World Health Organization says stress is the health epidemic of the 21st century. So, stress, and that's one of the big things that affects your gut health and can contribute to leaky gut problems. And alcohol consumption. My gosh, when I saw this figure, I almost couldn't believe it myself. It's increased 70%. People are really drinking a lot of alcohol globally. In some countries, the numbers are absolutely alarming. So you need to know that there are plenty of reasons that people need to do something about their gut health. And that's why Mannatech has created our Microbiome System, or 3-part system. So how does the gut microbiome affect immune health and brain health? You know, when most people think of the gut, they're not thinking about the brain. Some think about the immune system a little bit, but the brain? Yep, you're going to be surprised by this. Well, most scientists agree that about 70% of your total immune function originates, and you might say even resides, in your gastrointestinal tract. That's huge. And this is important because these microbes, they help to modulate immune function, but they also are very key to sending signals from the gut to the brain and the brain to the gut. There are certain things produced that have to be produced in the gut but are needed by the brain. It's fascinating stuff. There's a real connection between brain health and gut health. And in fact, this axis, if you will, which these days are just saying the gut-brain axis, okay, This is all going through something called the vagus nerve, pronounced just like Las Vegas, right? The vagus nerve is a nerve that goes from the brain all the way down, and there's probably, and there's more study being done on it, of course, but there's probably more communication going through that than, well, probably anything else in the rest of the body. There's 100 billion neurons in the brain, but there's 500 billion neurons in the gut. And most people don't realize that. And we're talking about neurotransmitters and neurotransmitter chemicals, things that can produce neurotransmitters like GABA as an example. GABA is produced in the gut, but it's needed by the brain. And there has to be a signal that goes from the brain to the gut, and then there's some actions that go on in the gut that produce it so that it can go up to the brain. It's fascinating stuff. If you want to produce more serotonin, you have to have this gut-brain axis communication. It's amazing stuff, just amazing. And of course, we're going to be talking a lot about butyrate or butyric acid, and that's a short-chain fatty acid. We know that that is also produced in the gut. And of course, we have added our own glycans, or commercially known as glyconutrients, scientifically called glycans. Now, these glycans include our ambertose technologies and, of course, mannitol, the most important glycan ever discovered. So, what's the difference between probiotics and enzymes? And are they both necessary? I'm asked this stuff all the time. All right. You have a prebiotic, so here are the different categories for you. A prebiotic is something that feeds a probiotic. Prebiotics are generally various types of saccharide fibers, all right? We're not going to get into a lot of detail about how this works right now. So prebiotics are things like ambertose and mannitol. They help to feed the probiotic so that that good beneficial bacteria can do its job in your gut, and so that the colony, and we refer to the group of probiotics as a colony, okay? So that colony can continue to grow and thrive and prosper. You know that if you're fed healthy food, you're going to be healthier, right? That's the bottom line. Well, then a probiotic, that's the CFU, or colony forming unit. So when you look on a label and it says CFUs, now you know what that means. That's the probiotic. So that's growing as a result of being nourished by the prebiotic. Digestive enzyme. Right, a digestive enzyme is a globular protein. I'll show you a picture of it in a few minutes. So it's a globular protein that interacts with food molecules and actually breaks down the food molecule to release the nutrient from the molecule, so the vitamins, the minerals, and other factors. And you have digestive enzymes and you have systemic enzymes. They're different. So a digestive enzyme digests your food, and that's mostly in the stomach and the duodenum. But with our product, it goes a little further. We'll talk about that. And then a systemic enzyme is an enzyme that's found in your blood. That's not digesting your food, that's doing various enzyme activities in your blood. So now you know the different categories and why they're different. So, the GI-Biome System. The GI-Biome System, 3 products. Of course, the foundation of the system is GI Defense, the product that we're launching right now. GI Defense is to help strengthen your gut. You've got to have a healthy gut. I think all of you realize that by now. And then, of course, GI-Zyme is to help digest your food. And GI ProBalance is there to give you the probiotic, the beneficial bacteria that do all manner of things that in terms of communication and immune health and breaking down various other food fibers and so on. So we'll talk more about that. So this is the system: GI ProBalance, GI Defense, and GI-Zyme. 3 different products, 3 different functions. You should have them all. And I'm told there's going to be a special packaging rate on that as well. That's not my department, but somebody will tell you about it. All right, GI Defense. That's the product we're launching today. GI Defense is formulated specifically, by now you get it, to strengthen your gut wall. and to strengthen and nourish your intestinal tract. So that's all the stuff down here, okay? So then, this also helps to support butyrate production or butyric acid production. In fact, I'm frequently asked these days, what's butyrate? And then I say butyric acid, and they go, oh, okay, I get it. So you see right on the label, it says GI defense, butyrate, production, support. So butyrate is super important. And this blend can also help to purify your system because it helps to take up some of those toxins so that it doesn't stress out your body as these toxins are being processed. And that's pretty important stuff. Okay, butyrate. What is butyrate? Butyrate or butyric acid, it's also known as a short-chain fatty acid, or you'll see sometimes SCFA. It's a vital fatty acid made in your gut. It's got all kinds of functions. It gives you about 70% for all of your colon cells. It gives those colon cells about 70% of their total energy needs. That's pretty important. And it provides antioxidant support. And of course, strengthening the gut wall, as we've already been talking about. It can also help to support healthy blood sugar balance and brain health. It's the key in the gut-brain axis. So you want more butyrate for a lot of reasons. By the way, butyric acid is also used to interact with minerals, to help you process minerals and absorb them. It's so important. It's so much to talk about with that. All right, so the gut immune connection, let's do that first. There's something called NF-kB, and that stands for Nuclear Factor Kappa Light Chain Enhancer of Activated B Cells. Whoa, that's why they call it NF-kB, because who wants to say that whole name, right? All right, so what does it do? Well, it's important stuff. This is a protein complex, and it controls the transcription of DNA, and cytokine production, a kind of immune response cell, and cell survival. Butyrate is key to NF-kB, and NF-kB plays a key role in regulating immune response. So here you have butyrate connected to the immune system. I promised a lot of folks that we would make that connection between gut health products, and the immune system, and now you've got something brand new to talk about. So this helps us with the barrier function and the integrity of the gut. These, by the way, as you're seeing on the screen right now, are approved benefits claims that you can talk about. By the way, you will see this will be archived. It's going to be archived in hard copy, and this recording is going to be archived as well. So you'll be able to play this again and again and again as many times as you want. And that's good if you have so much information. It's hard to, pardon the pun, it's hard to digest all of it. There's so much, all right? So this helps to purify the gut and balance beneficial bacteria. Really good stuff. These are very, very good claims. And so you can use these approved claims, design this around your presentation to talk with people about new GI defense so that they'll understand the benefits here. Also, and the list of benefits keep going on, with help for normal mucus function, because that's very important in the gut line. You can read about that separately. You could probably Google that. We won't talk about it in detail right now. It can help you with feelings of gas and bloating. So the GI-Zyme product can help you with that as well by digesting your food. But this product can also help you in this area as well. So there's some crossover. And can also help you with feelings of energy, mental focus, and even improve your mood. Happy gut, happy brain. I think there's a connection here. All right, so we call this our Glycobiome Butyrate Support Blend. And it's pretty unique. There are lots of different ways that people have been trying to address leaky gut over the years, but this way is pretty unique. Now, this is a phytonutrient blend. It's taken from citrus, and this has been studied scientifically, pretty impressive, cutting-edge technology, which has been registered, trademarked as Flavobiotics, and that's taken from the word flavonoid, okay? Flavobiotics. Well, in study that's been done, so this is in vitro animal and human studies, show that flavobiotics can inhibit the growth of negative bacteria, can support the growth of beneficial bacteria, and can help to strengthen that gut wall. That's the whole point of dealing with leaky gut. Now you might say, well, how effective is this? Well, the study showed it's pretty effective, and 90 to 95% of what you put in your mouth is actually going to make it into your gut. That's exceptional, truly exceptional. And then that starts to go through the metabolized process in the colon to start to balance or modulate your gut microbiome. The 12-week study was done, and this was a randomized, parallel, double-blind, placebo-controlled study, gold standard kind of study here. This is as good as it gets. It was shown that flavobiotics significantly increased the presence of short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate. And butyrate is the target. That's what we're looking for. Now, in addition, we've added some other things to the product which are just generally beneficial for the gut. As an example, cinnamon, which is found in a lot of gut products, and it's been used by naturopaths as an example for, oh gosh, probably centuries to help support normal blood sugar. But here we're adding it to give you polyphenols, which are a type of antioxidant, a phytonutrient antioxidant. Peppermint, of course, is associated with soothing the gut and with digestion overall. And it may help you to reduce flatulence as well. Cloves, of course, can help you to regulate blood sugar. That's been known for a long time. And grapeseed extract contains proanthocyanidins, another type of antioxidant, very, very important in your gut. Now, we've added some pepper nigrin because pepper nigrin is associated with having increased levels of utilization, and that's important. And of course, marshmallow root powder is added because that helps to soothe by moistening the mucous membrane in the gut. That's really important. And licorice root is used to help the gastrointestinal tract to kind of soothe the gastrointestinal tract. So lots of benefits from these other products. And you expect a long, what I call the no list. So none of this and none of that, right? So no artificial colors, flavors, sweeteners, or preservatives. No gluten. Vegetarian friendly. Low glycemic. That means it doesn't raise your blood sugar. Scientifically sound ingredients that are backed by solid scientific study. No allergens from dairy, soy, seafood, wheat. Contains prebiotic fiber, which helps to feed your probiotic colony. And glyconutrients, of course, are added to this. And it has all natural ingredients, and it has no MSG, and it is non-GMO. We go out of our way at Mannatech to make sure that we do not buy ingredients that have genetically modified material. All right, my friends, now it's time to talk about improved GI Pro Balance. So we had the original GI Pro back in 2004, I think, and then we went to GI Pro Balance, and now we have our third incarnation, which is improved GI Pro Balance. Well, what do probiotics do? Why are they important? Well, probiotics are organisms in your gut that help you with a lot of things. It may help you with acid reflux or heartburn, diarrhea or constipation, gas and bloating, cramping sometimes, fatigue very often, and even nausea. So you want to have the right balance of probiotics to help you in those areas. Well, it seems that a lot of people don't have the right balance. In fact, in the US, there's about 70 million people who suffer from some form of digestive issue. That is a huge percentage of our total population. And in the EU, it's about 86% of Europeans. In Canada, it's 54% of the adults. suffering from digestive-related issues. That's important stuff. So, probiotics, we've already talked about them a little bit, so just quickly to reinforce, these are beneficial bacteria that have a number of benefits for you that we'll reinforce here in the next few minutes. Probiotic sales right now worldwide. I give you these sales numbers because I want you to understand how important this is to the number of people that it's important to. And it's huge and it's growing. So probiotic sales right now is about 57 billion US dollars, but it's expected to grow at a rate of 7.7% per year. So those numbers are just going to keep going up because all of those issues that I talked about in the early part of this presentation, those things are unlikely to go away. Rather, probably are going to keep getting worse. So then, as the population ages, they're generally not producing as much beneficial probiotic as they should. People who have lactose intolerance, and I'll show you some numbers, that's a huge number of people, by the way. Anyone suffering from skin conditions, and anyone who has less than an optimal diet, which according to studies is most people. So the original GI Pro was the product that I made back in, I guess, 2004, and that had 3 strains, which was very good, and it was completely new and different. Nothing had been done like it before, where we combined prebiotic and probiotic in the same formula. Then we upgraded to GI Pro, and now, as of today, we're introducing our new upgraded GI Pro Balance, and this has some significant improvements. We've added 2 more strains of probiotic bacteria which are very hardy, very resistant to stomach acid. That's important too. Not all probiotics can survive stomach acid. It's a very, very important thing to know. New scientific study shows us that the greater variety of probiotics you have, the healthier the gut tends to be. So we wanted to increase the number, increase the variety, going from 6 to 8. There's always somebody who says to me, oh, what are the 8? Like it really is important or they're going to remember. All right, so this has been recorded, and you can watch this as many times as you want. The information's all there for you, but these are the 8, if you want to take a look at them quickly. And by the way, number 8 on the list, rhamnosus, Lactobacillus rhamnosus, we'll be talking more about that in this presentation, and that's not in order of importance. It just happened to be number 8 as I typed it on the slide. Okay. So then, prebiotic-rich fibers and glyconutrients. Mannapol is in this. Ambrogard, which is our premium form of arabinogalactan. We've also added to it new prebiotics. We'll highlight those in a few minutes. So here's our comparison chart showing the second version of GI Pro, which was GI Pro Balance, to our third improvement in this process, which is the new improved GI Pro Balance. You look at the original, it had 15 billion organisms at time of formulation. Now the new one has 50, that is 50 billion organisms. A huge improvement. Also, at time of expiration, because those organisms, because this is a synbiotic, which means there's a prebiotic in the container to feed the probiotic so that they can continue to live and thrive until you're ready to use them. So on the original, or on the last product, 1.5 billion organisms were still viable or alive at the expiration date. Now it's 8.5 billion at expiration. We're getting better at what we're doing here. We had 6 strains, now we have 8 strains. And before we had prebiotics, as you see on the left side of the slide, fructooligosaccharides, of course, the most common prebiotics. And oligo, by the way, is from an ancient Greek word, which means many or very many, all right? So you've heard monosaccharide, polysaccharide. When there's very many, it's an oligosaccharide, all right? So fructooligosaccharides, gum acacia, gum tragacanth, and we get many of our glycans that we use in ambrotose from gum acacia, and gum trichocanth. Now, to this new improved formula, we've added mannopol, the most important glycan that was ever discovered, and Ambrogard, which I would rate as number 2, the second most important, but really powerful. So there's a big improvement between the previous version and the new version of this product. Once again, the no list is pretty long. It's gluten-free, no MSG, suitable for vegetarians, contains naturally sourced ingredients, remains viable without refrigeration. It's our own process and it works beautifully. No artificial flavors or sweeteners, and the ingredients are supported by solid scientific study, as you expect from Mannatech always. Low glycemic means it won't raise your blood sugar, even though it tastes good. When you taste it, wow, this tastes good, okay? And it is keto and low-carb diet friendly, and of course, non-GMO. All right, the last product in the system, but maybe it should be the first product in the system. You can debate that if you want, because you need to digest your food before anything else occurs, and that's GI-Zyme, the new improved GI-Zyme. I told you I'd show you what a digestive enzyme looks like. Well, that's what it looks like. So it's a glob of protein, and that protein interacts with food, and it breaks down the food and releases the nutrition from the food. That's what they do. Sometimes a picture's worth 1,000 words, maybe sometimes not, I don't know. So this is something that I said back in 2004 when I was doing a lecture on digestive enzymes. And because everybody's used to saying, you are what you eat. That's not true. If you eat and it passes through, well, that's no value. You are what you eat, digest, and absorb. If you don't digest it and absorb it, there wasn't much point in eating it. And if you don't have sufficient enzymes to get that job done, guess what's not going to happen? You're not going to be getting the nutrition from the food you've just eaten. So, if you don't have enough digestive enzyme, if you eat a food for which you don't have an enzyme, a corresponding enzyme to break it down, you're not going to feel good. You're going to have gas and bloating are the most common things. You may have heartburn. You may have constipation. You could have diarrhea. You could have it on the other end of the scale. And intolerances and food sensitivities very often are only a lack of an enzyme. And the best illustration of that is lactose. So lactose, a sugar that naturally occurs in milk, requires an enzyme called lactase to break down that sugar. If you ingest something with lactose, so milk, cheese, whatever, and you don't have lactase, you're not going to feel good. You're going to have gas and bloating and cramping and who knows, all kinds of associated problems. And that's because you're missing the enzyme to break it down. It's that simple. It's not an allergy. It's just a sensitivity because you don't have the enzyme to break it down. Well, what kind of enzymes do you need? Literally, there are thousands of enzymes in the body. What we're talking about right now are digestive groups. So lipase is a type of enzyme that breaks down lipids, which is a scientific way of saying fat, okay? So lipase breaks down fat. Protease breaks down proteins. Carbohydrate breaks down all manner of carbohydrates, including sugars, including things like glycans, right? Those have to be broken down with carbohydrates. The most common carbohydrates that you'll see typically is amylase, sometimes you'll see invertase, and sometimes cellulase. We'll talk about those in a few moments. Lactase, of course, is the enzyme that breaks down lactose, and if you break down the lactose, you don't have any symptoms. You don't feel uncomfortable, gas, bloating, all that stuff. It doesn't happen. And remember, in the very beginning of this presentation, I said, if you're lacking the enzyme necessary to digest the food that you just ate, doesn't matter what the food is, then you're going to feel unpleasant. If you have the enzyme you need, well, then you're going to digest that and probably do just fine. All right, my friends, now it's time for us to take a sort of a snapshot, kind of an overall look at the digestive system, particularly as it relates to pH. You know, there's a lot of people right now that are thinking in absolutes. So you need to be all alkaline, right? Well, no, actually you don't, and by the way, you can't. Your body won't allow you to, because if you went all alkaline, you wouldn't survive, okay? Now, I'm not arguing against alkaline this or alkaline that, but rather I want to tell you how the digestive tract is designed to work. The stomach produces acid because it must. It's part of your design. It has a purpose. In fact, you have these little pumps, thousands of little pumps on the inside of your stomach, on the internal part of the lining. The only job they have is to pump out acid. Now, if you use an over-the-counter pharmaceutical or a prescription pharmaceutical, and you're doing this for acid reflux, for heartburn, what these drugs do is they kill those pumps. They literally destroy the pumps. Now, the pumps are so important to your health. The acid in your stomach is so important that your body will make all of the pumps all over again, replenish them all in 24 hours, which is why you have to take those drugs every 24 hours, okay? The reason that people are having heartburn, there are many. There are many reasons for that. But certainly one of them is because you're not digesting your food correctly, and one of them is people eating too much food, but there's a list of issues. Well, we'll talk about digestion, obviously, during this segment. So what I want you to notice is the stomach has to have a pH of between 1 and 3. Now, beneath the stomach is this little pocket called the duodenum. Now, there you need a pH of around 4.5. And then when you go down into the intestines, now you need to start getting a lot more alkaline, going to 5, and then you get all the way down to the sigmoid colon at the bottom. You need to be all the way down to an alkalinity level pH of 8, okay? So you need to have different levels of pH as you go down. It's part of your design. It's there for a reason, and we want to work with that. We don't want to work against it. We want to work with it. We want to help your body to work in its optimal fashion with digestion. So we're looking at a product that works in 2 phases. The first phase goes on in your stomach. That's the enzymes digesting food in your stomach, the amylase, the lipase, the invertase, the alpha-galactosidase, that's for gas, for flatulence, especially that you may develop from eating beans or legumes, okay? And of course, lactase for lactose. But then there's phase 2. And in phase 2, that's now below. Now you're in the intestinal tract, okay? Now in phase 2, you're going to need protease in a much more sophisticated form. Now these are all plant enzymes that have been cultivated to activate with various pH stimuli. And this is really cool. Plus all the other things you see there, we'll talk more about them in a minute. And by the way, notice the picture, folks. It's in a blister pack now. How cool is this? This is so good, because now if you're going out to eat, if you're going to a friend's house for dinner, then you'll be able to just take 1 page of the blister pack, stick it in your pocket, in your purse, whatever. Make sure you take those before you eat when you're out, instead of carrying a whole bottle in your pocket or wrapping it up in a tissue paper or whatever, all right? So this is so cool. Now there's no reason, there's no excuse for you not to have your enzymes before you eat. No excuse. No excuse not for you to digest and absorb in the most optimal way. So this product is pH activated. It helps you with acid stability. These are plant enzymes, as I mentioned. All right, so let's go back to the stomach for a minute. All right, so the stomach, somewhere between pH of 1 to 3, highly acidic. And what you'll see on the label are the words protease 3.0 and protease 4.5. Now the protease 3.0 will activate in the stomach. The 4.5 activates in the duodenum to help you digest your proteins beyond the stomach. That's important. And of course, lipase to digest your fats and the amylase for the carbohydrates that you have. Okay, now we make the transition from the stomach and the duodenum. We're going into the intestines. So we're looking at being able to digest all the way through this sort of long trip going down to the bottom of the sigmoid colon. Here, you need to have protein digestive enzymes that can activate in a pH of 5. That's towards the top of the intestines. By the time you get down to the very bottom of the sigmoid colon, now you're at a pH of 8, or at least you should be. So with this in mind, you've got these protease enzymes that continue to digest your proteins literally all the way down so that you can get even more benefit from what you've eaten. And don't eat the 72-ounce steak. I mean, don't even try it, okay? But eat healthy, eat reasonable. Even when you do eat reasonable, you are still very often going to find a need for additional digestive enzymes, and that's what we're about to cover. So, the lactose, we're going to talk about that significantly. Cellulase to help release nutrition from vegetable fiber, okay? And also, again, the alpha-galactosidase for flatulence, okay? Well, what's the key driver, as they say in the marketing world? The key driver is mostly age. As we age, and there are other factors, but as we age, we tend to become less efficient each year at producing digestive enzyme. And lots of people would say, well, this happens when you get older and that happens when you get older. One thing we know when we get older is that we tend to have more nutritional problems as we age, and a lot of that is tied into digestive enzymes, being able to actually digest and absorb what you eat, not just eat, okay? Right now in Korea, we're looking at, and that's one of our biggest markets, of course, we're looking at a median age of 60 by the year 2045. Their population in Korea is continuing to age, and older people are continuing to live longer, which is a trend that we're seeing in most developed countries around the world. In the EU, by the year 2070, they tell us that 51% of the entire European population are going to be greater than 65 years of age. The general rule of thumb is that you're losing about 1% of your ability or your efficiency to produce your own digestive enzyme, a little more than 1% per year. Or let's do it in a 10-year block. So every 10 years, you're losing about 13% of your ability to produce digestive enzymes. Now we know that as you age, as people are becoming, quote, elderly, unquote, that they tend to have more nutrition-related problems. And a big part of that is because they're not producing sufficient digestive enzyme to actually pull the nutrition from the food they've eaten. A lot of what they've eaten is just literally going through without getting them the benefits. So if you start at age 40, you get to age 50, now you've lost 13%. Then you go from 50 to 60, and you've lost 26%. Think about that. So as you age, it gets a little bit worse. This is why at a certain age you say, you know, I didn't used to have a problem with that food, but I do now. Well, I didn't used to have gas when I ate that food, but now I do. I didn't used to have that problem with bloating, but now I do. Folks, it may simply be a need for enzymes and nothing more. Now, in our diet today, we eat a lot of food that has little or no enzyme content. Enzymes die around 117, 118 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 47 degrees Celsius. So they die at a fairly low temperature. Just about any kind of cooking is going to kill enzymes. Then on the other hand, you might say, well, then we'll just eat everything raw. Well, some things you can't eat raw, okay? I mean, you just can't, all right? But of the things you could eat raw, here's the problem. First of all the enzymes in the food don't digest all of the food, number one. Number two is that scientific study has shown that cooking foods like vegetables, I know the raw fooders are going to be upset about this, but the science is the science, okay? when you cook the food, it helps to release nutrition from the fibers of the vegetables. So eat it raw, get the enzymes. Eat it cooked, get the nutrients. You know, you have to make your own decisions on that, folks. Most people are going to eat it cooked. Approximately 65% of the human population has a reduced ability to produce an enzyme called lactase. Now, humans are designed, like all mammals, are designed to have mother's milk from the time they're born. And some of you won't like this, but the studies indicate, and you'll make your own decisions, of course, but the studies indicate that it would be normal, it appears to be normal, it appears to be by design for children to nurse for the first 24 months. And in fact, it's right around 24 months that about 65% of the population stops making lactase. The indication there is that they were making the lactase so that they could digest mother's milk. That's the whole idea. This is particularly common in people in East Asia, West Africa, the Arab and Jewish population, as well as Greeks, and many of Italian descent. So it's a fairly common deficiency in adults. And we have added lactase enzyme to GI-Zyme to help you digest lactose sugar, okay? In virtually every food group that you would consume, no matter how exotic, there is an enzyme in this product to help you digest it. That's pretty cool. Now, we made some changes, and one of the changes we did is there's so many countries where we could not put the original US version of GI-Zyme in these various countries, and for a lot of different reasons. A lot of times they just don't recognize, every country has their sort of list of approved things. Sometimes the lists never get upgraded, like for decades, all right? And so in some of our countries, it was okay to use bromelain, but not okay to use peptidase. So we removed the peptidase, we replaced it with bromelain. What do? They both digest protein, and they both digest protein almost exactly the same way. So you lose nothing, and now we have the ability to put GI-Zyme into some countries that we could never get it into before. That's pretty cool. So that was a big improvement for us. Also, we have increased the level of one of my favorites, alpha-galactosidase. Alpha-galactosidase, again, that's the one if you get flatulence and bloating when you eat beans, legumes, any of those groups, alpha-galactosidase is the one you're deficient in. That's the enzyme you need. We've added our specific glyconutrients, mannitol, ambrogard, two most important glycans that there are anywhere as far as I'm concerned, and gum tragacanth and gum acacia, so that you get all of the different glycans that you would find in our ambrotose technologies. Not in the specific and same proportion, but all of the same glycans that you would find in there. So that's really important because we know how important glycans are for cellular communication and therefore function. And of course, we have a new box and it's in a blister pack. So there's no excuse for you not having your GI-Zyme with you when you go to a friend or to a restaurant or wherever you're going to go out to eat. So here's a quick look at the changes between the previous product and the new that I've just talked about, and this is sort of a little snapshot for you so you can see that. So this product is formulated, we're going to go through the approved benefits, all right, and there's quite a few. So this product is, of course, there to help you with digestion, but it's pH activated. That is so important. I don't know of another product in this industry, maybe there's one, but I haven't seen it, that uses this same technology so that you can digest your proteins starting in the stomach and keep digesting those proteins all the way down. Huge benefit. And since it's pH activated, where some of our competitors do things they call time release. And what they do is they actually take an enzyme and they put a coating over it. They're hoping that between the heat of your body and the fluids in your body, that the coating will slowly erode around the enzyme and then release the enzyme. They call that time release. pH activated is far more sophisticated, and it's a much, much better approach. So this can help you, obviously, with any kind of discomfort that's associated with lack of enzyme. Again, if you eat a food, any food, doesn't matter what it is, if you don't have the enzyme to break it down, you're not going to feel good. And of course, this can help to support the gut-brain connection. We've added to this some ginger root. I can't even imagine doing a digestive product without ginger root. Ginger is so important to soothe and balance the stomach. It has so many benefits. So in that first part of digestion that you may have digestive discomfort in some cases. Peppermint leaf, again, we've already talked about that in this presentation, and that it is helps with soothing the digestive tract, calming the digestive tract. And of course, fennel provides you with a number of phytonutrient benefits that are beneficial to gut health as well. And again, our no list, it's quite long, and it's exactly what you expect. The gluten-free, the non-GMO, vegan, vegetarian friendly, wherever possible, no artificial flavors or sweeteners, low glycemic, it won't raise your blood sugar, and it is a proprietary Mannatech formula. You will not see this blend anywhere else. This is a great enzyme blend. And of course, it's keto friendly if you're on that diet. It's low carb friendly if you're on that diet. And no soy, no dairy, no MSG, and preservative free. So that's quite a long no list. What products would be synergistic to this? I'm always asked about every time I do a launch or a training. I always have somebody say, well, what other products should I take with this? Or what products maybe I shouldn't take this? Well, there's nothing you shouldn't take with it. Don't worry about that. But what should you take with it? Remember what I said earlier. If you are not getting enough vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, or zinc, then you are not going to be able to have proper digestive health. And as you'll see in a number of my presentations that are archived, and I invite you to go look at all of them, but especially as it relates to vitamins, minerals, immune function, you're going to see that human blood studies are indicating that the majority of people who are tested are not getting adequate levels of vitamins from diet alone, which is why those experts themselves have come out and said, you should be taking a vitamin mineral supplement every day. And I'm telling you folks, you need to be taking one that provides you with a high enough level of A, C, E, and zinc to get this job done. Take your Catalyst. And GI Pro Balance, this is interesting. Remember I talked about Lactobacillus rhamnosus. It looks like, according to scientific study, that rhamnosus may also help to increase butyrate production. That's a benefit. And I read this fascinating study a few weeks ago of genetic scientists who are studying the genetics of rhamnosus and relating that to brain function. Very cool stuff. More studies going to be done, I'm sure. But we're glad that we have Lactobacillus rhamnosus in GI Pro Balance. So then, this is how it looks as far as I'm concerned for gut health. We have our three products, our three GI products, that are our microbiome system. GI Pro Balance, GI Zyme, and of course, the centerpiece of all that, GI Defense. And Ambertose. Ambertose for everything. Ambertose for everybody, every day. Ambertose provides you with prebiotic, of course, cellular communication, immune support, the list goes on. So almost all associates are taking Ambertose. That's foundational. And of course, Catalyst that we just talked about. So what you're looking at right now, my friends, is my recommendation for optimal gut health. And I hope that you'll start doing the right thing for your gut as quickly as you can, because that is good for everything from digestion to brain function. And folks, you want it all. Thanks for listening.